Hello, and welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show. You're seeing us live, so all the energy that we're emitting, you're getting right away from us. And thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here. We have some fantastic ladies with us today. We have Vicki Jeters, and she'll be talking to you more. And then we have Carol Mahavli. Did I say it right?
That's good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And they're very fascinating women, and you'll get to hear a lot more from them. But first, let's do a nice meditation to tune us in and give us a nice, relaxed, loving embrace from the Creator. So if you'll just inhale and exhale, breathing in peace. And now, this time inhale and tighten up your toes, your calves, all the way up to your thighs and up to your buttocks. And exhale and release. And one more nice inhale. All the way up from your toes, up through your buttocks, up through your back, neck, shoulders, arms, face. Squeeze, 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 and relax. And now breathe in that loving energy into your heart. Breathing in, I am, and exhaling peace. And feeling your heart expanding into a cosmic heart that engulfs the entire universe. And you feel that love caressing you, supporting you, nurturing you, and giving to you all the love and support you need to continue down your pathway, your spiritual pathway. And breathe in again. I am, and exhale peace. And feel the love of the Creator infiltrating every cell of your body, every body that you have, because you have many more bodies than just your physical body. And feel yourself being fulfilled and becoming whole with that love that is there to love you, to support you, and to nurture you. It is always around you, that prana, that Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. Breathe it in and exhale and just relax your body even more. And feel it healing you. And know that you can call on this energy at any time. In your darkest, most helpless, fearful, alone hour, this energy is always around, because you are never alone. You are all one. And breathe in that oneness. And exhale and feel it again penetrate every cell, every nerve, every fiber of your body, making you feel wonderful, fantastic, filled with love and energy and the feeling and energy of the Creator. And know that we are all interconnected. And so feel our energy here, broadcasting to you wherever you may be, and we feel you wherever you are, and we are all one. Take a deep breath, and exhale, and open your eyes, and come back into full awakening consciousness. Hello.
Hi.
I hope that brightened your eyes up and your spirit. One of the themes that I kind of wanted to touch on today And I know everyone's been talking about it, and I don't want to date our program with it, but I think it was quite a blow to many people when Robin Williams took his own life, someone who's so apparently successful, talented, had everything you could possibly work for and achieve it. And I think the theme I'd like to talk about today is never give up, that it's just not okay to quit. Especially as a spiritual person, you really need to persevere, because even the darkest things that are thrown in your path are, challenges that you are supposed to learn from, and that, the old saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I know both of our guests can certainly attest to that. And we have one that wrote a book about that journey for her. So, we're going to go ahead and just talk briefly about that. Do you want to go ahead and start talking a little bit about who you are? And
thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah. So, my name is Vicki Jeter, and I came to Louisville in 2006 from Houston, Texas. I am a 25-year licensed practitioner for Centers for Spiritual Living, which at one time was called Religious Science, and is based on the science of mind teaching. And so that's my professional background. And I came to Louisville, and at that time there was a big transition in my life because my husband was transferred here and I went full-time as a practitioner. And when I did, I elected to start a study group for the science of mind teaching, and that evolved into what is today the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living here. And so that's one of my dedications, and that's part of what my book is about. My book is Call Me Victoria, Life Poems and Stories from Trial to Triumph. And that journey of the whole transition, getting here and starting the study group and realizing that that could be a success, was a huge demonstration for me, because it's something that I had wanted to do for the whole previous 17 years that I had been a practitioner. And so it was about making that launch, and saying, okay, so there's this great big opportunity in my life, and I can either look at this as, oh my gosh, I have to start completely over, or I can say, this opens up my world to actually completely fulfill my dream in being in service as a practitioner.
Now, weren't you born with a disability also?
I have spastic cerebral palsy, and when I was born, we didn't know if I would be able to walk at all. You kind of have to wait and see, because cerebral palsy is a large umbrella of potential how that manifests in the body. And I have a relatively mild case, and so by the time I was about 4, we figured out that I would be able to actually walk on crutches. I was on crutches from the time I was 4 until I was 18, and all that time I was asking them, so when will I walk without crutches? I had 6 orthopedic surgeries to improve my walking, and with each orthopedic surgery I would say, so is this the one that I'm going to walk? And they'd say, we don't know. And I was, oh my gosh, how can you not know? Well, so then when I was 18, I was able to move away from my family of origin. God bless them. They were very supportive of me always, but they were afraid of me making that leap of going from walking with crutches to walking independently. And that's quite a story that we don't have time for in this moment. But ultimately, I did. I put down my crutches when I was 18, both of them at the same time. Basically went cold turkey and just started walking without crutches. And, I would take 2 or 3 steps and I would fall. And I would get up and take 2 or 3 steps and then I would fall. But, if you do that day after day, literally, I never picked up both crutches again. And so then I did successfully get to where I was navigating everywhere without crutches.
So you never gave up?
I never gave up. I never gave up.
Yeah.
So,
That's real important. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's hear a little bit from you about your background and, your story and things like that.
Okay. I came into Unity as a registered nurse, and I still maintain my license. And in fact, I'm getting ready to enter homeopathic school, hopefully by the first of the year. And somebody asked me, well, how did you get from nursing into ministry? And I said, well, I see it as just a real progressive path because I was so involved in physical healing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm really involved in spiritual healing. Now when I go to homeopathic, it'll be the combination of both. So I
Mhm.
think it's interesting when you look at it in that respect. But I came into Unity I entered ministerial school in 1995. But my path to get to entering ministry was interesting because my grandmother had given me the Daily Word when I was 16 years old as a gift. I had no idea when I opened up Daily Word there was any organization connected to it. I thought it was just a publication, and I had it my whole life. And come to find out that there was this whole organization, this whole movement built around this little publication called Daily Word. So I ended up with a business partner who was big in Unity and belonged to the Unity Church here in Louisville downtown. She got me interested. She gave me a book, and it was called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity by Reverend Catherine Ponder. And that book changed my life. It really did. And I had, your theme that you have written here on the board, Never Give Up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe people aren't old enough to remember the Horatio Alger kind of outlook on life, but that was pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it yourself, that type thing. And so my mother said when I was a really young person that I always say, I want to do it myself. So I was in that mindset until I came into Unity. And when I came into Unity, I came into the realization that there's this spiritual power that every one of us has within that is so powerful. And after that, I never felt a victim. I never felt that I was victimized in any way by anything that was happening around me. I just tapped into this power and this presence, and it changed my life. And that book really launched me. When I went to see Catherine Ponder speak at Unity Village, which is our world headquarters out in Kansas City, there was this long line of people, and we were all chatting with one another, and we were talking about how we got into ministry. And she was the reason, because she had written all these wonderful books. And so it was really funny because my family, I come from a Catholic background, and it was like I'd come near them and they'd be like, they don't want to talk to me. I'd have the book in my hand. No, don't give me the book. And they were kind of not really understanding the transformation that I went through. That was what it was. And I was on fire with it. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, said, if you are on fire with spirit, people will come from miles around to watch you burn. And that was what I was doing. I just was on fire with it. So I credit Catherine Ponder with my entrance into the ministry. All these ministers standing around me in this line waiting for her to autograph our books said she was the reason. So I'm just one of those. But Unity really changed my life. And Unity is a way of life. I love it. I'm as excited about it today as I was 18 years ago. And
Okay, well, I've been living in Italy, which is like Catholic land.
Oh, yes.
And then my father was a Presbyterian minister who started the marriage and family therapy program at the seminary, David Steer. And so but I don't know about Unity. I've heard wonderful things. So, and I know that you both said that there's a crossing over in both of the history. So
Yeah,
maybe you could both talk a little bit about the
underlying history.
yes, exactly.
So, Louisville has 3 Christian Science reading rooms. And they were begun by a woman named Mary Baker Eddy.
Okay.
And Mary Baker Eddy actually is responsible for us being here today. Because she started teaching, and she attracted to her Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who ultimately started Unity, and Ernest Holmes, who founded Science of Mind, which is the teaching of Centers for Spiritual Living, and also Divine Science. There were three major ones, and they actually have the same premise, which is, it is done unto you as you believe. That's taken literally, and the omnipresence of God is taken literally, so that both teachings see that the manifest universe is literally like the untotal body of God. So from Mary Baker Eddy, she actually had one or two or three key students, one of whom was a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins.
Right.
And Emma Curtis Hopkins actually became known as the teacher of teachers. Emma Curtis Hopkins wrote a book called Scientific Christian Mental Practice, which was an absolute game
Fabulous
changer.
book.
Yes.
She ordained Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founders.
Take it from there.
Oh, I was just
Oh.
throwing that in there.
Okay.
You're doing a good job. Go ahead.
So, but that's how exciting it is. For any of you who are interested in really getting to know some of the roots of what is called today modern New Thought, check out Emma Curtis Hopkins and a book called Scientific Christian Mental Practice, because it is an
Excellent.
absolute game changer. And so she actually taught Ernest Holmes and the Fillmores and
Right.
the people that began Divine Science. And there are just a few subtle differences in the two. They're really not any big
Not
deal
enough
whatsoever.
To really matter, I
Um,
wouldn't say.
The teachings are, the foundations of them are almost exactly the same. It's just different flavors of more how you add it all up together. And so that's the history.
I
Okay,
would like to
what-
point out the difference. Many people get us confused with New Age culture
Yes.
and practices. And New Thought and New Age,
Are not the same.
there's no comparison.
Right.
They're so different. They really don't even have anything to do with each other. Crystals and tarot and psychic abilities and things of that nature, all fabulously interesting. I think they're interesting.
But
We don't
have-
incorporate those into our Sunday services. Now, I can't speak for religious science, but
That's
I
also
can
true.
speak for Unity, and that, she can tell you more about religious science than I can. But in Unity, the Bible is considered to be our textbook. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, they were really into Jesus. They did not want to start a church. And that's the interesting, fascinating part of it. They never wanted to start a church. They just simply wanted to study the teachings of Jesus Christ as presented, years and years ago, that people had gotten away from with all these other man-made laws. And they wanted to study what Jesus had said in the Bible, how he lived in his teachings. And what happened was, they just wanted people to augment what they were studying in their own church, their own Christian church. But Unity is a Christian movement, I will say that. It's non-denominational, but it is based on the teachings of Jesus Christ. However, I want to add that Unity absolutely honors every world religion, every path to God. We don't say that there's only one path. Anybody that says that, you better run the other direction.
Okay, so I want to take this moment to put a plug in
Okay.
for my film that is going to be showing
Yes.
at Unity of East Louisville, right? Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It's about a 30-minute documentary that is a spiritual journey, and I filmed it in Italy, and it's basically asking international group of people, of individuals, questions like what their concept of God is, what they think happens after they die, have they had any spiritual awakenings, how do they connect with that spiritual energy, and afterwards we'll have a discussion, among the
Sounds
group.
good.
So we're going to be doing that, and that is on the corner of Old Herod Creek Road and Ward Avenue in Middletown.
You got it.
Yeah. So 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Please show up. We'd
Come
love to
join
have you.
us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And I have another question. Now, did you say it's Christian Science?
Mary Baker Eddy started Christian Science.
Okay.
And today, what is still operative are Christian Science reading rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And there are three of them
Seen
here in
this.
Louisville.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the foundation of actually all the movements, although they're not as in any way directly related today. We just have common histories.
Yes.
And another, thank you for thinking about the things that sometimes people get confused. Also, when you hear the term religious science for Centers for Spiritual Living, we're not in any way related to Scientology. That's probably the largest
Yeah, I was
confusion.
going to clarify that.
We get confused with Unitarian Universalist, which
Right.
we're not related to at all.
Yeah, so neither one of those are related to the histories that we're referring to.
Okay, and now what about, I thought there was a lot of controversy around Christian Science because of the medical aspect of not letting people...
That was one of the main differences. That's
Okay.
how
Yeah.
unity and religious science, that was the biggest thing that caused that original divide.
okay.
And then one of the main differences today between unity and Centers for Spiritual Living, we absolutely honor the teachings of Jesus, but we don't specify the Bible as any more of a spiritual text than the other spiritual texts of the world. What Ernest Holmes did is on his journey, and this is one common thing though, the Fillmores, they didn't want to start a church. Well, Ernest Holmes didn't either. And the only reason they actually organized into churches is because people gather, and it was pressure from the people. People
Right.
said,
That's
please, please, we want more. We want to.
They wanted the fellowship,
They
too,
wanted the
right?
fellowship and everything else that an actual established spiritual community offers. And so that's how both of them became organizations. But before that, Ernest Holmes, he basically traveled the world and collected all of the spiritual scriptures that he could get his hands on. The Vedas, he went everywhere. And because he said, there has to be underlying truths. There has to be underlying principles that indicate that we are in fact all one. And so as he synthesized, and that's the only reason why he chose not to hold out the Bible or Christianity as any a designation in the same way that Unity does. And it's not a right or wrong. It's just that for him, that's what he was looking for, is what do they all say?
Yeah.
What do they all
Now,
say?
we have evolved to the point where you'll often hear me quoting and us studying the Tao, even what the Upanishads and things like sacred writings like that we have in common with them. That the Bible's certainly not the only book, and we don't think we have a corner on the truth.
Exactly.
But they started out, and that's how they differentiated themselves. They made sure that everybody knew they were a Christian church, so to speak.
Well, and in the same way, the Science of Mind text, which that was the title of the book that Ernest Holmes eventually put all this into, in the Science of Mind, there's a whole section on the teachings of Jesus. So in that same kind of way,
Yeah.
we're meeting in the middle.
Well, for me personally, as a minister, that's the scripture that I know most about. I don't really know as much about the Quran or the Upanishads or the Tao, or I don't know as much about it. It's not that I have any qualms about getting
Saying
up and
that-
saying and
right.
embracing it, but
You
just that I
can't
can't
teach
get
what
up
you
and
don't know.
pretend to know something about something I haven't studied my whole life, which I've studied the teachings of Jesus for a much longer time. I'm more
Exactly.
familiar and comfortable with it.
Right.
Now,
But
you-
I like to help people heal from the kind of Jesus that maybe they grew up with.
But now you get up and you actually preach a sermon. Is that what
Oh,
you
we
do?
call
or-
them Sunday talks.
Okay, I was just wondering. I didn't
It's
know.
okay.
Old
It's-
school.
But I put forth spiritual principles on Sunday. At one time, Unity School was known as the Unity School of Practical Christianity. And when I was in ministerial school, it was really driven home to us, give them something they can take home with them. Give them something they can hold on to. So that really, when I get up in the morning and I start praying that I can be that open vessel, that channel, that give them something that they can take home and use. And
Inspire them.
now our saying in Unity is a practical a path for spiritual living, everyday living. It's just,
Right.
I love it. That's what's so wonderful. But I do want to point out one thing. There's probably one difference in terms of how Unity got started. Unity was started because Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founder, had a terrible case of tuberculosis. And what most people don't know about TB is that it doesn't just affect your lungs. And being an RN, I understand this. It gets in your bones, it gets in your intestines. And basically, they had told her, there's no hope for you, because back in the late 1800s, there was no cure. There was sanitariums that you went to and rested and that kind of thing. So she's the person who really started this. She started gathering information about, she went to, well, first of all, let me back up and say she went to a presentation by a man by the name of E.B. Weeks. And E.B. Weeks said, you are a child of God, and therefore you do not inherit sickness. That was it. That was what she took that and just went with it. And she started studying, and she sat down and put a picture of Jesus across from her and had these conversations every day. Took her 2 years of dedication, of believing, of speaking the word and laying the patterns
Embodying.
down on her body,
And,
which they have proven in Swiss experiments that the word you say lay patterns down on your bodies and the bodies around you. And she did this, and she
Right.
healed herself of tuberculosis. That's what started the Unity movement. And of course, she had met and married Charles, and he was a bit of a skeptic, and he's like, So he started sitting every night saying, well, Spirit, if you do exist, and you're really out there, and this is all not a bunch of hocus pocus, then start communicating with me. He really then started getting.
so they never gave up.
They never. That's my point. Thank
never
you
gave
for
up.
helping me make
We're
that
gonna
point.
we're gonna see a short trailer of the movie we're gonna see tomorrow night. What is God? And then a commercial break. How does that sound? Good.
Warehouse located at 5800 Fern Valley Road. We have 12,000 square feet of space to cater to your wildest party requests. Our large dance floor features 2 cages with a stellar light show to match. Along with our DJ booth and state-of-the-art sound system, we can keep the party going all night. We also have 2 VIP areas to accommodate your rock star lifestyle. Want to feature a band or other musical act at your party? Then our amazing stage at the Warehouse will more than please you and your friends. Want to rent our space? Contact our office at 502-964-7040 or find us on Facebook. The Warehouse, Louisville. The Warehouse.
Hi, we're back. Good to see you. And we just had a very inspiring talk here also by ourselves, a chat among ourselves, and we hope you're getting inspired. Again, the theme is never give up, and I think sometimes people get, isolated. They isolate themselves, and when they feel bad and they start feeling like they shouldn't go out because they're not going to be good company or they don't feel like it, and that's really probably the time they need to reach out most. And pick up the phone and call someone if you don't feel like going out. Have a list of people that you can call. And do things. I know this is one of the things that they say with addiction or, and suicidal tendencies and all that kind of stuff. If you do need to see a professional, a psychiatrist or a therapist, there are a lot of good ones all over the world here in Louisville. And, you know, my mother's a therapist, my father was a therapist, my brother's a therapist, I have a degree in therapy, so, you know, there's a lot of people who practice, you know. And it really makes a difference when you can talk things over, and even if you need to take some prescription drugs for a while, you know, there's nothing, you know, shameful about that at all. I think people start thinking they have to be strong and do it all by themselves, and, you know, there is a lot of things going on in the world right now. It's not the same planet that it was, you know, 10, 20, you know, in the 50s. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have to deal with now, and just turning on the news can really put you in a bad space. So, so we're just going to share a little bit about that. We too have had difficult times and how we've overcome them, you know, in our own stories as much as we want. I think we'll start with you, since you.
Thank you. So she was asking while we were on break how my journey started after having been born with cerebral palsy. So I think just a little drop back to that. I was born 7 months to term, and so I was very, very tiny. I weighed 2 pounds, 12 ounces, and there was umbilical cord trauma. Both of my parents were alcoholic, and at that time, there wasn't the open awareness then that there is now, that alcohol can be very, very detrimental to pregnancies. So there were things about that went on. And so the first thing that happened is that I was in the neonatal intensive care for 1 month, for 30 days. And my mother didn't have an opportunity to hold me until she took me home. And so there was a tremendous deficit of maternal bonding, and that actually had a very strong impact on how my mother and I related, because anytime you have a child with a disability, there is a grief process that goes on. And, you know, when we're in grief, then there's also the whole thing of, is there something that I did, or what didn't I do that could have helped my child? And so in addition to literally not having the closeness of being held for that 30 days, my mother was struggling through a grief process. She was dealt with a lot of depression, and being an alcoholic on top of it was very, very complex. So when I was about 4, they actually were looking at how much was I going to be able to motivate. They knew I probably would not be in a wheelchair because I could crawl. I crawled everywhere at that point. I actually started kindergarten crawling. When I was in kindergarten, I didn't even have my crutches. Every day I was just on the floor. And then they got me up on crutches, and the standing up that straight always made me feel like I was going to fall backwards. And so I didn't like the underarm crutches, and it was so hard for me because all the adults around me, they were excited. They were like, oh my goodness, she stood up, you know, she's going to maybe be able to walk. And I'm like, this is not a good idea for me. I don't like this. But I liked that the adults liked it. And so that inspired me to keep going with regard to keep trying to do the crutches. God bless the person that created Canadian crutches. By the time I was 7, I graduated to Canadian crutches, which are not underarm. And so one of the things that happened within that transition is when I was on the wooden crutches, I was in public school, and I would hit slick spots like kids would drink from water fountains and leave water on the floor. And I would hit slick spots, and my arms would just go out like this because you're hanging onto those crutches. And I slammed my chin against the concrete like 3 times within about 6 weeks. And the 3rd time was a deal breaker. They said, you know, this doesn't work. We have to find a more sheltered place for this precious child. In the meantime, I was like so frustrated because I knew that it was not good that I kept falling.
What do you think spiritually did you have that you hung onto that got you out of this? I mean, because it sounds like you were in just such an isolated.
Thank you. I was in quite a state, and what's true is when I was 9 years old, I came to blows with God. My parents were very spiritually oriented, but they didn't have a practice. As my mom worked to overcome her alcoholism, she got into the 12 steps. So I learned about God from her. I knew there was a God, but I said, by the time I was 9 and I had all these orthopedic surgeries, and everybody said maybe I can walk without the crutches. It didn't happen. So I got into a battle with God, and I was in the hospital in casts and just so frustrated. And I said, look, I know there's a God, and if you're there, what is the deal? You know,
Why'd you do this to
yeah,
me?
this doesn't work for me. And I literally said, you are uncaring, unforgiving, and if there isn't some way for you to show me what this is about, you can forget it. I wasn't asking, is there a God? I was saying, look, I need to understand this, because if I can't have more understanding, then I don't have any room for you. And I literally was turning my back, and a profound healing took place. Literally, the Holy Spirit filled my hospital room, and it involved, there was a priest and 2 nuns came to visit me, and they were at the foot of my bed, and they just listened, and I'm just pouring my heart out. This is after the confrontation. I'm feeling so bad, because then I'm remembering, oh my goodness, I just said all this to God. And they said a prayer together, like a Trinity, holding hands, and as they left the room, they were not in the room. As they left the room, the Holy Spirit filled my room, and I got my questions answered. I didn't get the question answered of why, but I did get that so total love. We are so totally loved. We are actually love manifest, and personally I believe that's what we're here to learn. That no matter what our trial is, no matter what we see before us, that we are charged to be able to come to the conviction of faith that says, regardless of the appearances, there is only love. And that's the message that I received. And with respect to why I was told I have to wait, I was only 9 years old. I mean, literally. This isn't something I heard, but I was touched in my heart. And so from that time, I've never been that level of frustrated again. That truth has never left me. The pain that I was in totally subsided for 3 whole days. And this was so profound. It was ineffable to me. It was a total mystical experience. I could not speak of it, and I didn't. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I couldn't, because how do you say that? And so that is one of the main cornerstones of how I moved from there. And one of the reasons that I had a knowing, regardless of what anybody around me didn't know, that I just had to keep pushing forward, because I've been told there is a reason, there is a plan, and I'm like, fine, if there's a reason and a plan, then we're just going to
Keep going. Yeah. Okay. What about you?
Oh, wow, that's a hard act to
Whatever you
follow.
I mean, I know we've all had difficult moments in our lives, and it's up to you what.
I think more of what I have to say has to do with the fact that Unity is a healing movement, and it's been based on prayer and faith healing from the beginning. And since I was a small child, I drug things into the house that were either half dead or wounded or whatever, all kinds of things to my mother's demise, because I would drag snakes in, and it didn't matter what it was, and I would drag little baby squirrels in and sleep with them in the bed, and all these kinds of things. I think I've been the kind of person, I must have been a Buddhist in a former life, because I have a reverence for every form of life. When my grandchildren come to my house and they want to smash a bug, and I'm like, stop! We don't, not in Grandmama's house. What we do is we catch and release and put it outside. So I've been that sort of person my whole life in this incarnation, that I really reverence life. And I think that I was then drawn to the Unity movement because of the story about Myrtle, and because I'd lived this way since being a small child. I mean, just really just always forever being on the side of life, no matter what was going on. And, in my ministry, I've had interesting experiences with people's families who have called me and said, we want you to come and visit with Aunt so-and-so. She's dying. And I would go into the room, and I finally wised up after a certain amount of time, and I would say to the person, how do you want me to pray with you? because they were praying out in the hallway that this person would have a peaceful transition, what we call moving from this life to the next. And then I would go in the room and the person would say, "Oh, I want you to pray with me that I'll walk out of here."
Not ready to
So
go.
I honor that. I honor that. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong, but I honor the soul who's making the choice. And I say, fine, I will support you in prayer. And what happened with one woman I'm thinking of in particular, she did walk out of there. And they were planning her funeral out in the hallway. So I think, always being on the side of life is, as a nurse, I took the vow to be on the side of life in my practice. And I that's how I feel in my ministry, that if people don't want to give up, then I'm right there with them. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Because you have the power and the presence of God within you that is greater than anything you see in this world or experience in this world. It's so much greater. And when they can tap into that, they get it. They get it in a big way. And not everybody has such a wonderful experience, but that is so beautiful about your transformation and your epiphany or whatever. It's so gorgeous. I mean, I love it. Thank you for sharing
I
it.
think they both have this an equal amount of grace to them, though.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no measurement there.
Yeah,
No. Yeah.
Because to understand that this is all around us.
Yes.
She saw it in
Yes.
every creature that she encountered growing up. But there's a passage in the Science of Mind text where Ernest Holmes says that the truth is shouting at us from every angle.
Yes.
It's all around us. The spiritual principles that keep this all together and the way that principle operates is always wanting to show us how this works. And I think that that's one of the things that I was inspired by as a child, is as long as I kept asking, rather than assuming something wasn't going to work, as long as I kept asking, life would be showing me ways, and I might go and say, to one of the adults trying to help me, well, I think it might be this or I think it might be that. And sometimes there was receptivity and sometimes there was not.
Right.
But if I would have bought into the
Yes.
times when it was not,
Yes.
I might not be where I am today.
Right.
Because it was very, very important that I not buy into the continuous limbo of it's kind of depressing when someone says, well, gee, we don't know. On one side, not knowing can be good, because then if you don't know, it might
Got a
be.
lot of possibilities there. Yeah.
And so I just really think that to tap into an individual heart, an individual knowing, and then say, where in my life is that which is greater than myself by any name? Where is life showing me how it works? And it can be as simple as starting from the idea of do you want to hand someone a fish or do you want to teach them how to fish?
Right.
Okay, that's the underlying thing. Because if you teach someone how to fish, then you're using the principle. And even though that's a natural law, that's a level of spiritual law. And so if that's where a person starts from, then if that's what works for you, then keep working with that kind of thing and keep noticing what works, what do I see working in life, and where can I tap into that, And that's part of the way where people find their own name for God.
One of the wonderful things that I love about New Thought in general, and of course Unity specifically, has to do with people that come and ask me to pray with them who have been given a diagnosis. And I say to them, you can't ignore the diagnosis that you've been given. That would be foolishness. You have to deal with it.
Take care of it.
You have to take care of it. However, you've got this window of a thing called a prognosis. And you and I can do together, so I can support you in that. We can do a lot of good spiritual work on your prognosis.
Yeah.
And we just hang in there with that. We don't give up. If that's what they want, we don't give up. And most people, that is what they do want. They do choose to stay on the side of what we call this earthly life. But of course, life is way before we came to earth and way beyond when we leave
Yeah.
this earthly garment. And
immortal coil.
Yeah.
I guess for me, probably one of the hardest things was to lose my husband. It seems like just yesterday, but it's actually been 9 years. And I'm like, 9 years, get over it. But we were so close. We wrote a book together, The Pathway Home, and we traveled all over the world together, and we set up healing centers, and we were very much involved in our spiritual journey together. And we saw our own spiritual teachers who were a couple, and people just knew us together. Like when I'd show up or Peter would show up, but then they wouldn't recognize us until we both were there. Like, oh yeah, hi, you're here. Your energy's together. So it was really hard to lose him, and I'd have to admit I'd wake up every morning and I'd use one of those 4-letter words we were not supposed to use on the show. That's how I greet the morning, and
It's honest though.
and I was just such.
Sincere.
I mean, looking back, I was a brat because life, God was giving me so many blessings. It's like I had my own film school in Florence, Italy, and I'd been living in Florence before I met Peter, and I had all these people coming out of nowhere, remembering me, Elizabeth, the child, come inside, where have you been, and all this, and so I mean, I was just showered, and I know I could have definitely come close to, just not being here right now, but I know also I was very cared for by my own spiritual teacher, who I always feel her presence with me, and I just do think we're looked after and we're cared for if we just don't get so bratty that we're like, I'm mad at you guys, you didn't do things the way I wanted them to do, and I know now that I've grown a lot more being on my own, because my husband was Cuban, he was older than me, he did everything for me, and it'd be like, honey, can I have this much money, or whatever it was, I mean, and now it's like really forcing me to like become inventive and
Be responsible for yourself.
be responsible for myself, and really access my talents. So
Right,
that's
right.
important. And I want to just take a minute also, since I'm talking about my spiritual teacher. She started a program, and it's www.risingstarsfundraising.org. It's on the screen right now, and it's a website where you can go, and all the money that it goes there. We have gifts on there, and you can also donate. And it goes to people, mostly children between 9 and 17, who can't afford to, usually inner city kids who have like a really bad path in front of them, and she buys them a plane ticket all the way up to Montana, and they stay on her ranch, which is just incredible.
Wow.
The energy there, the vibration is so, it really shifts your own vibration, and they learn how to do things like creative activities and animal husbandry and live with nature and things like that, and it really changes them. Last episode I read a poem that one of them wrote about how having help. It was a poem about someone digging, and someone put a shovel in the hand and showed them how to garden, and what a difference
Teaching them how.
teaching
Yes,
them how,
right,
and
right.
and so this is a wonderful opportunity. I mean, there's also gifts on there. One of the gifts is these cosmic hearts that I love. There's a necklace and earrings, and the proceeds go to the farm, to Sharon's program, Rising Stars. And there's all kinds of, like, there's little soul cards, and all kinds of neat little gifts that you can buy. And so it's a wonderful thing that's going on. And also, her husband works with websites, builds websites, and will solve your computer problems. And his website is www.goldkeycomputersolutions.com. And
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And if you go there, he actually is offering you a free hour, which is worth
Right.
about $147. And he's actually doing my website. I'm so
Yes,
excited.
he
So you'll
is.
get to
We're
see it.
very
It'll be for
excited about that.
infinitehuman.com, and we'll have all these talk shows on it, so you can go there. If you missed some of them, you can go see the old ones. And he's just a really nice guy, and he gets back to you between 24 and 48 hours, which is usually unheard of with all these, smart computer guys. So,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. He's a nice, wonderful man. And we also are one of our supporters who prints up all our T-shirts and signs and everything is Staub's Printers. And they're, a great printing company. And don't forget to visit us on infinitehuman.com or on Facebook. Do you guys want to make some announcements too, since we're running?
I would just say we have a Facebook page. It's Unity of East Louisville. And then we also have a website, www.unityofelouisville.org. And that has everything listed on it that we have in the way of classes and prayer support and all of that. So just invite everyone to take a look at it. So
Okay.
we're proud of it.
Okay, great. What about?
And thank you. I would like for everyone to know that the address for the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is 105 North Linden Lane. It's in the St. Matthews area. And our minister is actually Reverend Carolyn Harville. And we have services on Sundays, 10:30 in the morning to 11:30. And then all kinds of other things that we do there. And in October, we have a special event happening. Reverend Chris Michaels is coming to do our Sunday and offer a workshop on finding your soul's path. We're very excited
That
about
sounds
that.
interesting.
Yes, indeed, on October the 5th. So let's see. Now that I have this opportunity.
Is that a website that they can go to see that?
I don't know Chris's website, but the website for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is lcslonline.org. And then you can find under events, you'll find Chris, and then our Sunday services are recorded, so you can hear Reverend Carolyn Harville. And yeah, there's all kinds of information on the website. And then my website for the book is under callmevictoria.com.
Okay, good.
We've got an Enneagram workshop coming up. Are you all familiar with the Enneagram?
Yes, indeed.
We do, and the information is on the website. It's led by Joe Zarentinello, who has a retreat center out in Bardstown called Loose Leaf Hollow. So I'll give him a plug, and he's
Okay.
going to do the Enneagram workshop. So I'm looking forward to that. That's next month. I think it's the 20th, but I'm not really sure. It's on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay, great. And let me just ask you one more thing. What do you actually do in your practice? I didn't quite understand that.
A practitioner is someone who, if you had something in your life that you wanted to transform, you would say to me, can I spend some time with you? And then I would ask you, where are you starting from? And we talk about that. And how would you like it to be? And I would say to you, if you could call me tomorrow and tell me that this is resolved, how would you feel? And then you would talk about that, how you want to feel. You leave to spirit the details of exactly how that happens. But what a practitioner does, we take that information and we help the client to create an alignment between what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you believe. Because what's true, if you look at a situation in your life and you ask yourself, what am I thinking? How am I feeling? And what do I believe? Almost all of the time, you will find one of those three will be out of alignment
Conflict.
if whatever the thing you're wanting is not going your way. Because the universe is for us. The universe always says yes. No matter where we are, no matter what our current circumstances are, somewhere along the line, the universe is always saying yes. So if you say, well, I didn't sign up for that. Well, if you didn't sign up for that, absolutely take a look at, okay, as of right now, because it's power of now, where we're talking about not getting caught up in what's happened in the past and stuff, to realize that universally, nothing ever happens yesterday, and nothing actually ever happens tomorrow. When things are happening, it's always right now. Spirit meets us where we show up. And so in the moment, if you can let go of whose fault it might have been or whatever was a misunderstanding and say, okay, today, how am I thinking? How am I feeling? And what do I believe? If you can see where those have gotten juxtaposed, that's the work that a practitioner does, is while the client is going through their traces, because who can see their forest for the trees? When you're in the forest, it's hard to see, but someone who can see objectively and just know that the truth is that you are a precious child of God, you are only love, and that love is manifest according to exactly what is being believed. So we hold that conviction of faith while you're working through the process on a human level.
And how can they get in touch with you if they want to do some of that work with you?
Certainly, they could go to this
your
website,
website,
or lcslonline.org. There's a place there for prayer requests. And then if you look under practitioners, there's more than myself. We have like a team of about 5 practitioners plus Reverend Carolyn, and you can put a prayer request in that way. And there's phone numbers and so
Okay, but they can go to Call Me Victoria.
forth. CallMeVictoria.com. Absolutely, you can get a hold of me directly, just that
Okay,
easily.
we showed that on the show a minute ago, so.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, good. Is there any other announcements we need to go as we're winding down here?
I didn't bring my calendar with me, but I think the Enneagram
But there's
is
always
the
events
biggest
going
thing coming up,
in
other than tomorrow
classes.
night with the movie.
Don't forget that.
I'm
That's
really,
important.
yeah, I'm
And
tickled
now,
with
do
that.
you guys have a website?
We do, unityofeastlouisville.org.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed that
Okay.
one.
Well, we went with, we changed all of our, well, not all the churches have done that yet, but they're in the process of doing that all over the world, to where we have a particular logo, yeah.
So that's
Uh,
identifiable.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when you
Good
see
name,
that
Yogo.
particular font, which is not a font that you can look up anywhere, it was artistically designed by someone.
Right.
So the unity, looks like a little pineapple on the eye or something. You see that, you know that we're all affiliated with one another. So
Right.
whatever town you go to, Unity of Dallas, Unity of North Dallas, Unity of South Dallas, Unity of East Louisville, Unity of Louisville, we're all sister churches.
Right.
Um,
And can be identified just by
Yeah,
that.
because there are churches out there using the name Unity but are not affiliated with Unity Worldwide Ministries,
Okay.
and we are.
Right.
But I can't think of anything. I just would say if you want to join our church Facebook page, we'd love to have you, and go on the website and take a look at what we're doing. I think we're
I
doing
joined.
a lot of things. Oh, yes, you did, and welcome. You're our newest member.
Oh, good.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
That's very exciting.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. So, do any of you know Rebecca? She's a hypnotist.
Gerasitano?
Yeah, I think that's
She's
right.
a member of my church.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, she's going to be on next week.
Oh,
Yeah.
watch
How
Rebecca.
much
She's
fun.
wonderful. She's a Jungian analyst, and she's just a wonderful, wonderful person.
Okay, good,
Oh,
good.
you'll love her.
Yeah, and she studied at the Edgar Casey.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, good,
There
good.
is.
So stay tuned. Tune in next week at 7:00, and we'll have Rebecca. Pronounce
Gerasitano.
Gerasitano. I should be able to pronounce
that.
that. It sounds Italian.
She's one of my chaplains. She's
Oh my
just
gosh,
a beautiful spirit.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies, you did such a wonderful
Thank you.
job.
I
It's
enjoyed
very
that.
Thank you
exciting.
for the
Yeah.
opportunity. This
Yeah,
is
thank
really
you.
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm honored that you asked me to.
Well,
Thank
good,
you.
good. You guys were wonderful. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See you
Good
next
night.
week.